Welcome to the Hard Money Show, where we talk about real estate, home loans, and media. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about home insurance. In the last couple years, especially because the increase of wildfires that have happened in California, insurance has gotten more and more difficult to get. There are major insurance companies that are threatening to pull out of California if there is not something done by our government. That should be worrying people, and it worries me. And I thought this was the perfect opportunity to jump on and talk about how to navigate this as a homeowner, how to navigate this as a buyer, how to navigate this as a seller to find some success. And there's ways to prepare before you get into an instance that could become a problem. Now, I know some of you unfortunately have been in a position where this sort of snuck up on you and you weren't really sure what to do. And I know at our brokerages, we do real estate, we do home loans, and we actually have an insurance offshoot. And we've seen the increases, we've seen the difficulties. And that's why I thought this would be the perfect time to talk to you guys about how to navigate this. And I'm going to sort of come from this from a different perspective. Obviously, you can talk to your realtor and your loan officer team, and they're going to help navigate you through this. And it's good to be informed and understand some of these key things that you need to know in order to be successful around the real estate space, no matter what direction you're coming from it. So let's go ahead, jump on over and take a look at the number one resource outside of talking to your realtor and loan officer that you can look at on your own to have some success. Let's jump over. All right, you guys might know them as your local firefighters, but if you're looking for the government agency that's going to be your biggest resource when it comes to understanding what you need to do to be able to navigate this insurance problem, you're going to want to come over to Cal Fire. That's right. We're looking at Cal Fire. This is fire.ca.gov. Now, I want to be clear about this. This resource does not mean that your insurance company is just going to give you whatever you want or that they're going to make any exceptions for you. But what this can do is at least give you a launching point and some understanding about what's going on, what your resources are, and potentially how you could make an argument for yourself and for your property. And so the first thing I want to look at here, and I already came to the specific page, is on defensible space. This is a newer thing that we're really starting to see more and more on the real estate side. It's integrated into the contracts, and it has been for a while, but there's different components of it. So what is defensible space? So defensible space is the buffer between your structure and the surrounding areas. And this photo does a great example of showing what this is. You can see that you have your property and you have what could be a fire hazard, right? So we're looking at bushes, we're looking at trees, we're looking at any foliage or growing or anything that could catch your property on fire. That is going to be a hazard. Now we're going to jump from here over to another website. There's a lot of different companies that do this. You'll also see this done with title companies, and it's called a fortress drone examination of the property. And this is just one that I found. It has a very good visual of what they do, but you can see here that this is the property. This is a drone footage, and then they give a qualifying number to potentially what sort of hazards you could have as far as it goes to being able to start a fire. And you can see they give a score based off of that, and the lower the score, the more dangerous it is. And so you can see this one here, this 6, that is right here on the property. It's almost touching the house. We have a 2. This one's overhanging on the house. You can see this. And so this is a great example. Again, if you're looking, this is called a fortress, things like that. And these are things that you can utilize to understand what a property's sort of score is, their vulnerability score, and how to navigate that, whether you're selling or buying or you own your home, and maybe what sort of maintenance you should be doing to protect your home. So this is a great resource. This company right here is Fortress Fire. That's fortressfire.com. I just really like their visuals and it makes a lot of sense. So I would take a look at both. We're going to jump back over, but understand, right? This is what we're dealing with. So when we're talking about defensible space, we're talking about that space around your house. And when I moved into my home, I had two trees in my front yard that were overhanging on my house. I had a tree in my backyard that was overhanging on my property. And I had multiple trees within my smaller trees, but within our backyard. I had quite a bit of those taken out. And yes, that does cost money, but I sort of saw the writing on the wall as we were going through, and I understood that these were a hazard. And as we move forward in this industry, we start to see that this is becoming more and more prevalent for people who are trying to sell their house, who are trying to buy their house or own their home, that their home is not safe. And I say this very lightly because just because you have a tree, people have had trees over their homes for a very long time, doesn't mean your home is going to catch on fire. It doesn't mean that it's a huge hazard, but they're starting to, when I say they, I mean insurance companies, I mean the government, I mean real estate transactions, the Department of Real Estate are starting to take this much, much more seriously. And that sort of means that you as an individual have to start taking this more seriously. Are you trimming your trees? Are you keeping them away from the home? Are there some trees or shrubs and things like that that maybe you should take away from your home to make them more safe? And if you're in a dense residential area, likely you're not in an area that is zoned or is marked as a place that is a problem. Typically, we're starting to see this more and more out in the rural areas, and we have quite a bit of those areas out here. So this isn't exactly a problem now, but I have seen this become a problem more and more in the city, and so we want to keep you prepared. I want to show you guys another resource here. So if we come down, we can see here that there are essentially 3 easy guidelines. If you're in zone 0, start closest to your home to be ember resistant, right? So we're talking about here this sort of 5 feet area. You can see they have sort of cement around the area, keep it a little more safe. Zone 1, keep it lean, clean, and green within 30 feet. You can see here we have this green patch around the property. And then Zone 2, reduce potential fuel within 100 feet. And that would mean keeping this area. Now, again, if you're in a residential area, likely you're going to be coming up to other properties. You're going to be coming up to roads. And this isn't really a problem, but it's good to understand sort of what the expectations are as we get further and further into this. Now, before we go into the next resource, I want to talk to you why we're even bringing this up, why I'm even showing you the defensible space. Well, in the real estate contract, there's a section that asks if the owner has information about this, if you either have a certificate or if you know that if you're in an area that is of high risk. They ask that on the contract, and I would say 99% of the time homeowners don't know, and they should know. And so this is an opportunity to educate yourself if you own a home. Additionally, if you're trying to buy a home, you can sort of get this information as well, and you can request this information. And if you're a homeowner already and you're having issues with insurance, it's good to double check this. You know, we would hate to see you would have to move to a different area because you couldn't afford the insurance or sell the home because of that. But this might be the case. And for those of you guys that are preparing, we want to look at every factor when it comes to being able to be successful in your real estate transaction. So let's jump back over to our next resource. Okay, the next thing we want to look at is the LRA Fire Hazard Severity Zone Maps. Now, my understanding is these are getting updated as we speak. It could take a couple years to really get these fine-tuned, but ultimately these maps are designed to show if you are in an area that is high or low hazard for fires. So this is going to be a key resource for anybody trying to navigate this area. So if you want to navigate here, you're going to come to OSFM.fire.ca.gov. You're going to want to come here and you're clicking on this. Go ahead and say, I understand. Come to OK. And you're going to put in your area now, because You know, we got the beam lit. We're gonna focus on Sacramento, and I'm gonna back it out just a little bit because we always talk about the greater Sacramento area, not exactly Sacramento just specific, because if you're looking at this map, you should be able to see that we have Sacramento, but then we have Roseville, Folsom, Elk Grove, Davis, Woodland, and I sort of look at this area here, and if we come over here to the right, we can see this is effective as April 1st, 2024. The peach is very high, so we can see some here. We can see high is this orange color, and then yellow is the moderate color. And then you can see for reclassified, we have very high, and we have the lines through it down here. Now, what we're really looking at for us are gray, right? We want to be in gray because gray pretty much means we're in an area that does not have any issue. So let's back it out. Now you can put specific addresses on here. So you do have that option, but we're not going to do that. We're just going to leave it to this greater Sacramento area, and we're going to take a look at this as a whole. Now, the reason I bring this up as a whole is because as a loan officer, I do business all through California, so I need to know this. But as a realtor, I do things through the greater Sacramento area, and that sometimes takes me into different counties where there are these different hazards. And so if we look, you know, at Roseville here, and we're coming into Roseville, we're not that far out of Sacramento that we're starting to see, and I say central Sacramento, where we're starting to see these fire hazards. We have Lincoln up here, and we can start to see we have high to moderate fire areas that are hazard severity zones for fires that are out there. Out here in Folsom, we have the same thing, right? And we have a lot of development right now that's happening in Rancho Cordova out into this Anatolia corridor that's coming into Folsom that isn't yet developed. So it is in still this moderate area where they're developing new construction out here. And then we can see as we come down as part of Elk Grove out here, and as we come out this way to Vacaville, we start to see these problems again. So let's go ahead, let's zoom into the Sacramento area. Now I'm going to keep this zoomed in right here because I do a lot of what I want to do in real estate out in Carmichael, Citrus Heights, Fair Oaks, and Orangevale, and more particularly sort of the Fair Oaks, Carmichael area. But as we can see here, they're not in a hazard zone. So this is what I mean when I say that most suburban areas are not going to be a problem, but we are seeing certain things do come up. And if you really look at this and you think, well, we have quite a bit of rivers that flow through Sacramento, and we have this river area, and luckily we don't have any high hazard zones here. But if we end up having a drought one summer, it's possible that that area could be a high hazard zone if the water's really low, if it's really dry around there, it's not being kept. So it's something to pay attention to. Now, just to touch on this again, as a loan officer, I can do loans throughout the entire state. And so I need to be well versed on what it looks like out there. Now, this is primarily going to be handled through the realtor, but this can become a potential problem on the loan side. And so it's good to have this sort of resource as a whole, especially if you're looking to move from somewhere you live to somewhere that you've never been before, you haven't lived. You want to sort of look at these sort of things so you see what you're getting yourself into. And I don't want to create a frenzy here, but I definitely want people to be informed. So let's look at one more resource. So if we come back to the homepage we're at, the OSFM, and instead of clicking on this here, we're going to come down and we're going to look for our county. We are Sacramento County. We're going to come here and we are going to pull up the PDF for this area. So it comes up with the very high fire hazard severity zones in the LRA as recommended by CAL FIRE. And I'm going to bring you guys down here to the ledger so we can see that there's a couple things here. First, you have incorporated and non-incorporated areas. A lot of people don't know what that is. So I would definitely familiarize yourself because you might have slightly different rules if you're in an incorporated area or not incorporated area. But these dots mean that you are in an incorporated area. So you can see here around Elk Grove, in this area, Sacramento area, Citrus Heights, Rancho Cordova, Folsom. But then you see all these areas, and these are non-incorporated areas. As well as you can see here, the local responsibility areas and the state federal responsibility areas. So we can see here that this here is a non-hazardous area because it's grayed out, right? But we can see down here in the red, that is a hazardous area. And so we sort of have to pay attention to that. And this is just an additional resource that you guys can look at in order to have some better understanding of how to navigate what is going on. Now, I want to preface all of this information by saying that the best people to speak to would likely be CAL FIRE. But outside of CAL FIRE, talking to your local realtor and home loan officer team is likely the best thing, because this is something that comes up on every transaction. And so far as it pertains to the laws around real estate, they're going to have a good grasp on this. I would also say that working with a title company would also be pretty helpful on this front, because they're pretty well versed on this as well. Now, insurance might be a hit or miss on this front, but whoever is handling that fire area might be able to help you as well. So you have quite a bit of people you can speak to, but I would say it's definitely better to be informed and in the know than not. And as we continue to grow and have a larger problem, which is where it seems like it's going here in California, you're going to want to be more and more informed on this topic. So I urge you guys to get informed, to be prepared. And if you guys ever need any help, you know how to reach me. I am here as a resource, as your local realtor and loan officer. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Hard Money Show today. You guys have a good day, and I'll see you later.